Hello there, Cope1Knope here, welcome back to another video. Today's video I'm going to be reviewing Phasma. So this came out in 2017, so this was just before the release of The Last Jedi, and was published as part of the Journey to the Last Jedi initiative, although I wouldn't call it an essential read, but we'll get onto that. So to quickly summarise the plot, protagonist is V Maradi. Now she's a resistance spy. She's then captured by the First Order and is personally interrogated by Captain Cardinal. Captain Cardinal has a rivalry with Phasma due to the fact that she's essentially taking half of his responsibilities away within the First Order. So he's trying to get some dirt on Phasma in order to expose her in hopes that she'll be cast away from the First Order essentially. So the reason he's personally interrogating V is because V has recently visited Phasma's homeworld planet of Parnassos. So V is actually aware of Phasma's backstory. Now this is due to the fact that during her visit to the home planet she meets Civ, which kind of happens outside the book, but essentially Civ has told V the story of Phasma. And then from that point we kind of switch between chapters, going from the interrogation scene and then it switches to the story of Phasma and how she got into the tribe, how she became a respected warrior, and then her journey on the planet of Parnassos and to get into the First Order. So in terms of characters, so to start off with you have V Maradi, so she's the resistance spy. You can tell she clearly cares for people, she cares for the resistance cause, and she sees the good in people too. So even though she's been interrogated, like tortured at times from Captain Cardinal, she still sees the good in him. V herself is probably the polar opposite to Phasma, so they both have a brother, but V's willing to give up any information in order to keep her brother safe, whilst on the opposite end you have Phasma who goes against her brother quite often and is actually willing to harm him in order for her survival. She also sees people as opportunities to help herself, whilst V actually sees them as good opportunities to help other people and with the resistance cause. Captain Cardinal's also interesting because again, you can tell he's conflicted. He sticks to the rules of the First Order. He believes in the First Order cause, but he's also kind of naive because he also believes the First Order are actually going to bring order. The New Republic too busy arguing they don't know what they want for the galaxy, whilst the First Order has it set in their rules of what they want. But he's also convinced that the First Order are going to reach out to these backwater planets and help all the starving children and give aid to whoever needs it, because that's what he needed when he was younger, and that's what Brendel Hux gave him. So he's a hard shell to crack when it comes to trying to convince him to let go of the First Order, because he does have potential. And now Phasma herself, so she's kind of a strong, formidable warrior at first, and at first you're convinced that she does care for her people, she cares for her brother, because someone kind of steps up, kills the current leader of the clan. So Phasma and her brother take over the clan, but then as soon as Phasma sees any opportunity to be ruthless or any opportunity that will favour her and her alone, she will take it, no matter the cost, no matter if it costs other people's lives. She doesn't care, as long as she survives, she gets what she needs. That's all that matters. So Civ is younger than Phasma, kind of looks up to Phasma. She has a certain role within the clan that's quite interesting. So she's very into like the clan's traditions, but is still willing to follow Phasma because of the role model she is to her. But then you see even Civ question Phasma throughout the journey, question why she's leaving people behind, question why she's willing to kill people who don't necessarily need killing. So it was quite interesting to see the conflict within Civ throughout the book. Now Brendel Hux as well, he's a main character as well. He's quite an interesting read, quite a horrible man, but kind of stands out compared to the other people because he's just surrounded by all these warriors who know a lot less about the galaxy than he does, so he appears as very well spoken, very knowledgeable. But he too is quite similar to Phasma, where like he doesn't care if any of his soldiers die, he doesn't care for their opinions or anything. It doesn't really see him as people, to be honest. And Phasma is probably on a similar situation, so they get on very well. But you can kind of tell they'd both be willing to sacrifice each other if it came to it. So in terms of the plot itself, I did quite enjoy the plot, to be fair. I think Parnassos is quite a memorable planet, considering it's a kind of a book original. To be honest, I couldn't really tell you about many planets that have come from books, other than maybe Akiva of the Aftermath trilogy was quite memorable. I feel like because the whole book primarily took place on this planet, whilst the books kind of switch between planets, so Parnassos is definitely a planet I'd like to see more of, whether it's the healing process of it, if that ever happens, or what it was like beforehand. So maybe, I mean, I've not read the whole High Republic yet, but I'm hoping maybe it shows up at some point after reading this. It's very post-apocalyptic, very unforgiving planet. There's lots of wildlife that are incredibly dangerous. Yeah, the setting I really enjoyed. In terms of the story, again, I didn't quite like Phasma herself, but I suppose that's kind of the point. But I do enjoy how she's written. I do think though, when it comes to the other warriors, so there's a warrior called Torben. I mean, all I remember from him was that he was the muscles, and that's kind of it. Civ herself, I suppose she could have done a bit more with Civ. I found myself enjoying the modern day story more rather than Phasma's backstory, as I do feel like it did get repetitive at times. So they'd be going through this desert, a problem would show up, then I'll be going again, I'll come across a structure where another problem would be, and I suppose, I mean, it would be a bit of a boring read if it was just a light breeze through the planet, but maybe that's just me. I think maybe the problem with the pacing is that like the first half of the book, you kind of switch between every chapter or so, between the interrogation scene and whatever Phasma's up to. However, there's a point where it is just Phasma's story and then the repetitive stuff kind of happens and you don't get back to V and Cardinal for like several chapters. It's also left quite open-ended in terms of the modern setting. As far as I know, there's no follow-up to that story yet. I could be wrong. Everything revolving the clan was quite interesting, I thought, but it's just that a lot of the characters weren't memorable enough for me. It was nice to see more of how the First Order functions and the training. Yeah, overall I do think pacing is the main issue. So in terms of recommending the book, I mean, I think it's quite falsely advertised as something to be read as a lead up to The Last Jedi, because when watching The Last Jedi, it doesn't really affect the way you see the film itself. I think the only scene it would have affected was maybe the scene that actually got deleted, where Phasma kills her own men in order to protect her reputation. I'd say if you enjoy the idea of reading a book about a warrior in a post-apocalyptic world, then absolutely go for it. But in terms of the wide selection of books that Star Wars offers, this wouldn't be one of the first ones I'd recommend, but I'd still say it was a decent read nonetheless. So in terms of giving it a rating, so I've separated it into 3 parts. In terms of characters, I'll give it 3 out of 5. There are only like a couple, 2 to 3 interesting characters, and Phasma isn't part of one of them, in my opinion. Plot-wise, I'd give it a 3.5. It is a very interesting plot, I think. It's just that some parts drag more than they should have. In terms of pacing, I'll give it 2 out of 5. I think this mainly could have just been solved if they shoved a couple more chapters with V and Cardinal in, just to split up the repetitive side of things. So in terms of an overall score, I think it could be rounded up to 3 stars. So it's pretty decent. If it's the kind of vibe that you're interested in, I would recommend it. But in terms of Star Wars books though, I think there are other reads that are much better and that lead into films better as well. So that's all from me this video. Feel free to check out the social links in the description. Thank you all very much for watching, and may the Force be with you.